Yes, no class on Wednesday night, right, Rabbi?
That's correct. This Wednesday night, we will not be having a class. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Being that it's Tisha B'Av. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming on board. And tonight, I'm going to shake it up. Does that sound good or scary? Okay, we're going to do, I want to share a mystical story with you. That's it. Just a mystical story. That's all you're getting tonight. I'm a big believer in stories. In particular, the type of stories that type of story I'm going to share with you, because we don't begin to realize what's going on in the world around us. And the reason why we don't begin to realize is because we have no idea. And we have no idea because there is no way for us to know unless we open ourselves up to stories like these that at least make us aware that there's so much we're unaware of. And so I'm sharing this story because on Sunday, yesterday, was the 5th day of Menachem Av, which was the yahrzeit of a great mystic, a great Kabbalist by the name of the Arizal, who you may have heard of, otherwise known as the Ari HaKadosh, the Holy Ari. Very few people get the title HaKadosh, the Holy. It's designated for very exclusive people. He's one of them. And he lived about 500 years ago. And he spent a portion of his life in the city of Tzfat in Israel, city of Tzfas. My daughter spent a good, she was in seminary there this year, in the seminary in the city of Tzfas, which is known as a mystical city, in large part due to the Arizal. And our siddur that we pray from in Chabad shuls, you'll notice on its cover, it says, Al Pi Nusach Arizal, according to the Arizal version of the siddur. So the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, he composed, not composed, but he edited the siddur based on different teachings of the Arizal, and there were multiple versions of the siddur based on the Arizal's teachings, which are Kabbalistic teachings, and he refined and merged all of them into one version, and that's what we use. And that's why everything in our siddur is very particular, so that it's aligned grammatically and mystically, every single word. So that this is just a little bit of a background of who the Arizal was, and he passed away, if I'm not mistaken, he was 38 years old when he passed away. So he lived a relatively short life, but in this short life, he brought to the world unbelievable mystical teachings, which I do not study, but Hasidic philosophy refers to his teachings very often. And Hasidic philosophy, the Hasidic movement in general is built on, although it's not Kabbalistic, but built on Kabbalistic teachings. So that's the background of who the Arizal was. And here's a little story just to give you a sense of who he was. And it will also give you a sense of what we are unaware of, that some special people are aware of, like the Arizal. And I'll invite you, after I share the story, to share what came up in your mind as I shared this story. Okay, so the Arizal, again, I didn't refresh my memory of his background, but I believe he was born in Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. He's definitely spent time in Egypt, and then he came to Tzfat, to Israel. And when he came to the city of Tzfas, he was a newcomer. And he was a young guy. He passed away at 38. So when he came to Tzfas, he was very young. And but he was a man that immediately commanded attention because of his tremendous scholarship in Torah in general, and in mystical teachings in particular. There were two Kabbalists that lived in Tzfat at that time. One was a man by the name of Rabbi Moshe Galanti, And Rabbi Moshe Galanti, who was a Kabbalist, had a nephew who was also a great Kabbalist by the name of Rabbi Avram Galanti, an uncle and a nephew. Rabbi Avram Galanti wrote a commentary on the Zohar. The nephew, the younger one, wrote a commentary on the Zohar. He was a great Kabbalist. The Zohar is the original work of Jewish mysticism, of Kabbalah, very deep. So when the Arizal arrived, they heard there's a young man who came, a mystic, a Kabbalist, but the Galantis didn't really pay much attention to him. He came, very nice, but they didn't really pay much attention to him. He was a young guy, and whatever. He did not grab their attention. And the nephew, Rabbi Avram Galanti, he had a custom that no one knew about. It was a top secret thing that he did, because why would he tell people about this? Only people who are looking to show their piety announce things about themselves. But if a person is genuinely pious, they have no reason to tell other people about the pious things that they do. So this Rabbi Avram Galanti, the nephew, he would fast very often. He would fast for a full day, from dawn until dusk. He would fast. And he would do it private. No one knew. He would act normal. No one knew anything. And he would fast. Now, when a person accepts upon themselves a private fast, what you need to do is there are laws, there are guidelines on how to do that. And the way you do that is that the afternoon prior to the day you're going to fast, by mincha, you accept upon, by the mincha afternoon prayer, you accept upon yourself that tomorrow I'm making a commitment to fast. That's the proper way of a person, the protocol of someone taking on a fast. And that's, of course, what he would do. One day, the Arizal decided that he's making a very big su'uda. A su'uda is a festive meal. He's making a big su'uda on a Monday. He's making a big su'uda. And he wanted, for whatever reason, he wanted Rabbi Avram Galanti to come. The nephew, he wanted him to come. So he sent him an invitation. He sent a gentleman, he said to please go to Rabbi Avram Galanti and invite him, tell him I'm making a big festive meal, and I request that he attend. Although they never met, so they don't really know each other. But they've heard it. Surely the Arizal, of course, heard of Rabbi Avram Galanti. Rabbi Avram Galanti heard of the Arizal, but he never checked him out, if you will, to speak to him, to get to know what level of stature he is. But he sent and he said, I would like you to come to my Suda. So please, he told the messenger to tell Rabbi Avram Galanti, please, by mincha today, please do not accept upon yourself a fast, because I'm making a meal and I want you to attend the meal it's to eat. So he sent the messenger, came to Avram Galanti and said that the Arizal requests that you attend and that you not take upon yourself a fast by mincha today. Avram Galanti was immediately taken aback. Why was he taken aback? No one knew that he would fast. The Arizal knew. So the Arizal got his attention. He got his attention. Now, that's still not proof of anything, but it got his antennas perked, and so he told the messenger, tell the Arizal that I will attend his festive meal, the Suda. The next day he makes a Suda, and Rabbi Avram Galanti, this nephew of his uncle, one of the mystics, comes, and by the Suda, the Arizal, by this meal, the Arizal asked Rabbi Avram Galanti to explain to him a certain teaching in the Zohar. He told him a passage and he said, how do you understand this? And Rabbi Avram Galanti gave him an explanation. The Arizal explained to him why he thinks that his explanation is off. It's not aligned, it's not proper. And he gave him a different explanation. Rabbi Avram Galanti was very fascinated by his explanation. But when he thought about it, he said, 1 second. he said, your explanation contradicts something the Zohar says elsewhere. So the Arizal explained to him that it doesn't contradict what it says elsewhere. The reason why you think it's a contradiction is because you're misunderstanding it. And he explained it to him in a different way. And he suddenly said, you're right. Beautiful. And he's getting very mesmerized by the Arizal, who's a young guy. And he sees, wow, he's the real deal. And then he says, but 1 second, it contradicts the Zohar somewhere else. And he shows him again how he didn't understand the Zohar properly. So he thought it was a contradiction. When they were done with their conversation, this Rebbe Avram Galanti saw that the Arizal was a very, very profound individual. I want to tell you, I've repeated this in the past, the Arizal once said that what he learns when he's sleeping is 80 times deeper than what he learns when he's awake. That's what Arizal said. I'd like to ask you, how much more profound is your learning when you're sleeping than when you're awake? Right? Which is a funny question to even ask, right? Because we don't learn when we sleep. But someone who's actually immersed in Torah, this we know from many people, from many Torah scholars, someone who truly their entire life is immersed in the Torah. They don't spend any time on the internet, and they don't spend any time on TV or on any other, or reading newspapers. They literally, their head is totally in the Torah. So when they sleep, actually, their mind, they're revealed teachings from the Torah. We have a Hayom Yom. The Rebbe writes about this in Hayom Yom, one day from the teachings of throughout the entire year. So your mind, your revealed Torah from heaven when you sleep. I'm just telling you what I've read, obviously. But Arizal, when he was sleeping, he was able to separate himself more from the world, because we are not as conscious of the world when we're sleeping, and so he was able to learn on a far deeper level. So that's just an understanding again of who we're talking about. So many people would come to the Arizal, and I'm going to come back to the story in a moment. This is just to understand the next part of their interaction. They would come to the Arizal and they would ask the Arizal a question, which I would have loved to ask the Arizal, and that is, they would ask him, "What is the tikkun of my neshama?" That means, how do I bring rectification to my soul? Every soul is brought into this world with a mission. And your tikkun, if you will, or the way to make sure that your soul accomplishes its mission, is to know what the mission is. So the Arizal, many people would come to the Arizal to ask him, what is the mission of my soul? And the Arizal would tell people because he knew. Now, I would argue, I'm just going to say this, that maybe part of our process nowadays is for us to figure that out ourselves. And you can ask yourself, how am I supposed to figure that out? I'm not a mystic. And the answer to that is that we can figure it out. If we're dedicated to thinking about that and focusing on that, and we pay attention to who God designed us to be, which we have to have the willingness to own, which is not a simple matter in and of itself, and to see what gifts God has given us and what talents we have, and where God situated us in life geographically, and which people God has brought into our lives for us to get to know, so that all of that is telling in what the purpose of our soul is. But be that as it may, this Rav Avram Galanti, who's sitting now with Arizal, this young scholar, and discovers that he's a great mystic beyond himself, he decides he's going to ask Arizal, what's my tikkun? What is my soul supposed to accomplish in this world? So he asked the Arizal, what's the tikkun of my neshama? So the Arizal told him something that shocked him. He said, the tikkun of your neshama is to eat meat and drink wine. Wow. And he said actually to eat good meat, like rich meat, fat meat, and to drink quality wine. A mystic indulging in meat and wine, the whole thing just didn't jive. Rav Galanti never thought for a moment that was the purpose of his soul. Now, it so happens that it does say, the Talmud says, that the only people who should eat meat are great Torah scholars. That's what it says. Why? Because we know that there are divine sparks embedded within the universe. And when we interact with different parts of the universe for divine purpose, we elevate the divine sparks in those things. So who can actually eat a piece of meat and not eat it for the pleasure that they get out of it, but eat it for the divine purpose? Only great people can do that. I don't know about you, but when I eat a good steak, especially if it's off of a barbecue, my body engages very, very well and willingly with it. So to engage with it entirely from a soul perspective is an elevated level. So he was telling him that you think your mission is to fast. No, you got it wrong. Your mission is not to fast, it's to eat meat and drink wine. And in fact, he said, Arizal told him that they're upset with you in heaven that you fast so much because you're running away from your entire mission. Wow. He was blown by this notion. He already was so exposed in that short time to the brilliance of the Arizal and what he knew, that he trusted him, that he knew what his soul. So he went home and then he went to visit his uncle. His uncle was already an older man. It was his uncle. And he says, dear uncle, his name was Ramesha Galanti, his uncle. He said, I met this young man who was new to town, the Arizal. He's an astounding individual. I strongly encourage you to meet him. I think that you'll really enjoy meeting him. So his uncle knew that his nephew was on solid ground. You know, he's a great mystic, his nephew, in his own right. So he took up his recommendation. He went to see the Arizal. He spoke with him. He was able to see, in fact, who the Arizal in fact was. And he asked the Arizal for a tikkun for his neshama. He asked the same question his nephew asked. What is the mission of my soul? So the Arizal said, I see that you're guilty. You are guilty of theft. That your soul, you're guilty of theft. And you need to rectify this issue of theft. That's what I can see when I look at you. Now, just for you to understand, you see, the mystic looks at someone, they don't see a person. They don't see the body of the person. They see the spirit of the person. That itself is a very profound thing. Now, Rav Moshe was shocked also. Theft. He never in his life stole. He was absolutely sure of that. But who knows? Things happen that you're not 100% aware of. So he put out an announcement in the city that if there's anyone he ever in any way cheated in the smallest manner and maybe stole from them, he would like them to let him know so he can rectify it. And he put out this message and no one came forward. The whole message was strange. They would never expect from Moshe Galanti, this great mystic, such a question. He put out the message again and again. He kept on repeatedly putting out the message. One day, a few months later, an elderly woman came to him and says, Rabbi Galanti, it could be that what you're looking for is happened with me. So he said, please tell me what happened. So she said that I have my skill. My personal skill was, now she wasn't working anymore, she was an elderly woman. But my skill was that when someone would slaughter a sheep to eat, right, a shechita, right, according to Jewish law, they would slaughter a sheep in order to eat it. So you needed someone to take off the wool from the hide before you ate it. And that was my expertise. I was an expert at doing that. So people would hire me when they slaughtered a sheep. They would hire me to come to clean the wool from the meat. Once your wife had a sheep slaughtered and she needed someone to remove the wool, and I got a message from her to come, so I came. And I'm an expert. I'm far more skilled at this than most other people. And I did the job, and then I told her my price. And my price is a little bit more than what most people charge because I'm very skilled at it. I do a very good job. So your wife said, I never pay this amount of money. I pay everyone else a certain amount of money. And she didn't want to pay me my price. So I said, okay, whatever, you're not going to pay me. You're not going to pay me. So pay me what you're going to pay me. So she paid me, but she didn't pay me what I wanted. Now, this itself, so she said, maybe this is the issue. So that Rav Moshe said, I apologize. what was the difference. She told him the difference, and he paid her. He paid her this amount. Now, I want to mention that this isn't necessarily actual theft. We'll assume they didn't agree on the price beforehand. Afterhand, this is a negotiation, and they sort of agreed. She ended up agreeing, so it's not theft. However, we know that Hashem judges, if you will. Hashem holds us accountable to the level that we're on. And that's the reason why actually leaders are held to a higher standard than other people, by way of example. And if someone is truly genuinely has developed themselves, which hopefully we all do, as we develop ourselves and become more refined and more godly people, God expects more of us because we're on a higher level. So nuanced, subtle things, which are not per se a sin or a wrongdoing, depending on someone's level, could be wrong. So that's the reason why, by the way, you know, that there are people who say that there are people who say that my Rebbe's averis, my Rebbe's sins are my mitzvahs. You get that one? My master's sins are my mitzvahs. Why? Because for what them is a sin is for me a mitzvah. Because very often, me on my level, doing this thing would be a very positive thing, would be a big jump forward. Whereas my master doing that thing would actually be a falling back. That's just a... So the Reb Moshe Galanti wanted to know if this was in fact the issue. So he went back to the Arizal. And right when he walked into the Arizal's room, before he told Arizal anything, the Arizal says, Reb Moshe, I see that they just spoke about you in heaven. And the Reb Moshe Galanti saw right away that Arizal knew that this was the rectification that he needed. I share all of this with you for you to know that our world is a very deep place. And the physical aspects of the world are very shallow. And that it's very, very important for us as Jews to be aware of this. So that hopefully we pursue it. I don't mean to pursue becoming an Arizal and knowing, being aware of all this, but to pursue aligning our lives with the deeper depths of reality, which we may never not even be aware of, but to know that the mission God set out for us as a Jewish people is to align the world with this reality. And the way we do that is by following the guidelines that Hashem has given us in the Torah. Even though we don't see the results as our neshama is in our body, so we don't get to see the results as human beings, but we have enough awareness to know that things are going on, and it's our job to make sure that this world is aligned with the deeper realms. With this, I conclude, and I would love to hear if anyone has any comments to make about what this meant to you, which could be that you say, Rabbi, you totally lost me on the story. This didn't work for me. It could be that you say, this was profound. Whatever it was, I'd love to hear it. Who would like to jump in first?
I can jump in.
Okay.
I couldn't get on tonight for some reason. Rosie finally helped me, so I missed the beginning. But I guess I have two questions. One is